you help ensure that your son and all the victims of gun violence are not forgotten. They didn't die in vain. Designed to reduce gun violence and save lives, and I'm so proud of the tremendous progress we made since then. The year before I came to the presidency, the murder rate was the highest increase on record. And those rates are continuing to fall faster than ever. Last year,
I'm not asking you about short-barreled rifles. I know what short-barreled rifles are qualified as in the National Firearms Act.
This is a semi-automatic handgun. As quick as I depress the trigger of this Glock 19, a round comes out of the chamber.
Hand arms sales age ruling. In a significant judicial decision, U.S. District Court Judge Robert Payne in Richmond, Virginia, ruled that the federal law prohibiting licensed arm dealers from selling hand arms to individuals aged 18 to 20 years old is unconstitutional. This ruling is anchored in the Second Amendment, which protects the right to keep and bear arms. If upheld, this decision will allow arm dealers to legally sell hand arms to young adults aged 18 to 20. Judge Payne's 71-page ruling underscored the various rights and responsibilities granted to citizens at the age of 18. He noted that at this age, individuals gain the right to vote, can enlist in the military without needing parental permission, and are eligible to serve on a federal jury. Payne argued that excluding 18 to 20-year-olds from Second Amendment protections would create an inconsistency not seen with other constitutional rights. Payne's decision builds on the Supreme Court's 2022 landmark ruling, which altered the judicial approach to evaluating arm control laws. Historically, courts assessed armed restrictions by considering whether they served public interests, such as enhancing public safety. However, the Supreme Court's new directive emphasizes that judges should evaluate whether a law aligns with the nation's historical traditions of arm regulation. This change means that for an arm restriction to be upheld, governments must demonstrate its consistency with historical practices dating back to the founding of the country. Judge Payne repeatedly referenced the Supreme Court's 2022 ruling in his decision, stating that there was no historical precedent for age-based restrictions on the purchase or sale of arms from the colonial era, founding, or early republic periods. This absence of similar regulations during these formative periods of American history suggests that the Founding Fathers didn't view age-based limitations as compatible with the Second Amendment's guarantee. The implications of this ruling are profound, particularly as it follows a series of judicial decisions striking down various arm control measures. Since the Supreme Court's 2022 ruling, several federal laws have been declared unconstitutional. These include measures aimed at preventing domestic misusers and defendants under felony indictment from accessing arms, as well as a ban on possessing arms with removed serial numbers. Additionally, a federal judge cited the Supreme Court's decision when invalidating a Minnesota law that prohibited 18 to 20-year-olds from obtaining permits to carry hand arms in public. Similarly, a Texas law restricting hand arm access for young adults was also struck down. Judge Payne's ruling is part of this broader judicial trend where courts are increasingly questioning the constitutionality of modern arm control measures against the backdrop of historical traditions. The central argument is that contemporary laws must align with historical practices to be deemed constitutional under the Second Amendment. This decision has sparked considerable debate and is likely to face further legal challenges. Supporters of arm rights view Payne's ruling as a necessary correction that protects constitutional freedoms for all adults, including those aged 18 to 20. They argue that young adults who can vote and serve in the military shouldn't be denied the right to purchase hand arms for self-defense and other lawful purposes. Opponents of the ruling, however, express concerns over public safety implications. They argue that extending hand-arm access to younger individuals could increase the potential for armed violence and accidents. Public safety advocates often point to data suggesting higher rates of impulsive behavior and violence among younger age groups, which they believe justifies age-based restrictions on hand-arm purchases. The ongoing legal battles and debates surrounding this issue highlight the complexities of balancing constitutional rights with public safety concerns. As the case potentially moves through the appellate courts and possibly reaches the Supreme Court, the final outcome will significantly shape the landscape of arm control laws in the United States. Judge Payne's ruling represents a pivotal moment in the ongoing national debate over arm control and constitutional rights. By emphasizing the importance of historical traditions in evaluating modern laws, the decision challenges existing age-based restrictions on hand-arm purchases. Whether this ruling will stand or be overturned remains to be seen, but this impact on the interpretation and application of the Second Amendment is undeniable. Legal battle over arm rights. John Corey Fraser, 20, along with several other plaintiffs, challenged the constitutionality of the Arms Control Act of 1968 and the related regulations by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, or ATF, after being denied the purchase of hand-arms. This legal battle resulted in a significant ruling by U.S. District Court Judge Robert Payne declaring the age restriction on hand-arm sales to individuals under 21 unconstitutional. Elliot Harding, Fraser's attorney, highlighted that this ruling ensures that future buyers in the 18 to 20 age bracket can now purchase hand-arms within the federal system, which includes background checks and other regulatory requirements. Despite the victory, Harding anticipates an appeal from the defendants but remains optimistic about the ruling being upheld. He emphasized that the lawsuit aimed to close a loophole wherein 18 to 20-year-olds could already purchase hand-arms from private sellers without any regulatory oversight. By allowing these young adults to buy registered arms directly from manufacturers, they would undergo traditional steps in purchasing an arm, including background checks. This case sheds light on the broader debate over arm control and public debate. Proponents of the ruling argue that it rectifies an inconsistency in arm laws and ensures that young adults who are otherwise considered responsible enough to vote and serve in the military aren't deprived of their Second Amendment rights. They argue that the regulatory system in place for federal arms sales, which includes background checks, provides a safer and more controlled method for these young adults to obtain hand arms compared to unregulated private sales. Opponents, however, strongly disagree. Everytown Law, a group advocating for armed violence prevention, has supported the age restrictions and filed a brief defending them. Janet Carter, Everytown Law's Senior Director of Issues and Appeals, asserted that the law is crucial for preventing armed violence. She pointed to research indicating that arms are the leading cause of death for U.S. children and teenagers, and that 18 to 20-year-olds commit armed homicides at 3 times the rate of adults aged 21 and older. Carter warned that the court's ruling would put lives at risk and emphasized the need for its reversal. The Justice Department and the ATF haven't commented on the ruling, but the potential for an appeal looms. The debate centers on balancing constitutional rights with public safety concerns. Those supporting the ruling see it as an affirmation of young adults' constitutional rights, while those opposing it view it as a dangerous precedent that could lead to increased armed violence among younger populations. Legal challenges to arm control. The FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or NICS, has intensified its procedures for under 21 armed buyers. This system, already pivotal in screening prospective armed purchasers, now delves deeper than routine checks for young buyers. Examiners proactively reach out to state juvenile justice systems, mental health agencies, and local law enforcement to gather potentially disqualifying information not automatically queried by the NICS. This enhanced scrutiny is a result of the Bipartisan Safety Communities Act, or BSCA, of 2022, which extends the investigation period for under 21 applicants from 3 to 10 business days, allowing more time to uncover any potential red flags. In this context of heightened scrutiny, a recent ruling by a U.S. judge in Virginia has further stirred the legal landscape around arms. The judge struck down a federal law prohibiting licensed arms dealers from selling hand arms to individuals under 21. This decision marks another significant shift following the Supreme Court's landmark ruling in June 2022, known as the Bruin decision. The Bruin ruling transformed the judicial approach to evaluating arm laws, prompting a series of legal challenges and creating uncertainty about what arm restrictions will withstand judicial scrutiny. The Virginia judge's decision, issued on Wednesday, represents the initial phase of what promises to be a protracted legal battle. The ruling isn't immediately enforceable. It awaits a final order that would prevent the government from enforcing the age limit. The Justice Department hasn't yet commented on the ruling, but it's expected to appeal and may request that the final order be suspended during the appeals process. The Bruin decision fundamentally altered the legal framework for assessing arm laws. Previously, courts considered whether arm restrictions served public interests, such as enhancing public safety. However, the Supreme Court's new directive requires judges to evaluate whether an arm law is consistent with the nation's historical tradition of arm regulation. This shift has emboldened arm rights activists to challenge a variety of arm control measures, leading to increased judicial activity and uncertainty. The Virginia judge's ruling draws heavily on the Bruin decision, reflecting the evolving judicial approach to Second Amendment rights. By emphasizing historical context, the judge contended that there was no precedent for age-based restrictions on arm purchases from the nation's early history. This reasoning suggests that modern laws restricting hand arm sales to those under 21 may not align with the historical understanding of the Second Amendment. This ruling is part of a broader trend where courts are reevaluating and often striking down existing arm control measures. As this legal battle unfolds, it underscores the tension between efforts to regulate arms and the constitutional protections enshrined in the Second Amendment. The eventual outcome of these challenges will significantly shape the future of arm legislation in the United States, influencing how society balances individual rights with public safety concerns. The intensified scrutiny of 21 arm buyers by NICS, coupled with the judicial shifts stemming from the Bruin decision, illustrates the dynamic and contentious nature of the legal landscape surrounding arms. The Virginia judge's ruling is a critical development in this ongoing debate, reflecting broader trends and setting the stage for future legal battles over arm control measures. That's going to do it for this video, you guys. See you next time, and bye for now.